Boating buddies? Oh my god. This episode of SpongeBob SquarePants sucks. Here are the reasons why this episode sucks in my opinion. In the beginning of the episode, SpongeBob is brushing Gary, when he suddenly hears a strange noise. He goes outside to investigate, only to find out that it is just Squidward breathing. Squidward then tells SpongeBob that he will pay him $5 if he gives him peace and quiet for the rest of the day. However, Squidward already gave SpongeBob $5 to leave him alone yesterday. He gets annoyed, so Squidward begins walking away. He then finds out that SpongeBob is following him, so he starts running and he jumps onto his boat. However, he cannot find the keys and then SpongeBob arrives at Squidward's boat. Squidward then becomes furious, only to find out that SpongeBob wanted to give him his keys. Squidward drives away and literally drives through a stop sign by accident. He gets pulled over by a policeman, telling him that he needs to go to boating school to get his boating record clean. After that, the scene changes to Squidward walking up to Mrs. Puff's boating school, and once he opens the door, he sees SpongeBob and then starts to cry. During class, Squidward is forced to sit next to SpongeBob. Then Mrs. Puff asks Squidward why he is enrolled in boating school, so he tells everyone in the class while SpongeBob heavily breathes during this, annoying Squidward. After, Mrs. Puff tells SpongeBob to illustrate his side of the story, but SpongeBob just draws a picture with him and Squidward saying SpongeBob and Squidward, best boating buddies forever on the chalkboard. Later, during lunchtime, Squidward tries to avoid SpongeBob. He then decides to eat in the bathroom, but he sees SpongeBob's feet. Furious, Squidward angrily throws his sandwich on the floor, bangs the door and yells at SpongeBob, but when it opens, it is revealed to not be SpongeBob, but rather, a tough guy. Squidward awkwardly freaks out that he thought it was SpongeBob and gets beaten up, off-screen. He arrives back in class with SpongeBob, and Mrs. Puff tells him that he has to drive with SpongeBob for a test. So, they get inside a boat and SpongeBob is the driver. However, he drives out of control and crashes into a research lab. There, he, Squidward, and Mrs. Puff shrink and get washed down the drain. SpongeBob and Mrs. Puff end up in a water fountain back at Mrs. Puff's boating school, while Squidward ends up in the bathroom and gets beaten up again. The scene changes to everyone back in class. Mrs. Puff explains that everyone is going to do a test. But when SpongeBob tries to help him, an angry Squidward snaps at him exclaiming that they are not boating buddies, and he never wants help from him ever again. SpongeBob's feelings are hurt. However, Squidward cannot do the test because he cannot pick up the pencil since it is all bandaged up, so he asks for SpongeBob's help. When the sponge reminds him of what he said, Squidward denies it, only for his voice to have been recorded by another student. Finally, when Squidward admits that he and SpongeBob are boating buddies, and stated he said that before they became boating buddies and SpongeBob cheers. But time runs out and Squidward asks Mrs. Puff what to do. She then says that he needs to come back the next week to retake the test. Squidward finds out that SpongeBob also failed the test, and he has to come back the next week too, causing Squidward to scream, ending the episode. And that's how the episode goes. If you haven't seen it, don't watch it. It's a waste of time. I don't know who likes this episode. But do you know who hates this episode? Christmas Yes Sunny Day No. He made a rant on this episode. So screw boating buddies. And screw SpongeBob, you're fired. Waiting is 300 million times better than boating buddies. End of rant.